Welcome to the newest episode of Life Lessons in Hindsight, where we explore the wisdom that comes from looking back. I'm Teresia, a life and mindset coach for women over 40. Like you, I've navigated life's highs and lows and worn many hats, from nurse practitioner to chemical engineer, and started over more times than I can count. This podcast is for women ready to embrace self-compassion, learn from the past, and step boldly into their next chapter. Join me as we share stories, reflect, and discover the art of turning hindsight to foresight. Hey, what's up? I hope that you're doing well. So most people find life coaching because they're looking to feel better. Either something has suddenly gone horribly wrong in their lives, or they're simply exhausted from having the same old problems that drain them emotionally, and they recognize that something has to change. Their problems largely fall into two basic categories. The first is a desire to change how they spend their time. And by time, I literally mean what they do in their day-to-day, their work, their vocation or passion projects, their time with family, friends, rest, leisure, you name it. These women have a sense of feeling stuck, and they want to do things differently. They desperately want to create a life that is purposeful and fulfilled, where they're inspired and excited by the things they do. But they don't know how to get there, and they need a little help. The second is improving relationships. Most of the time, clients come with one particular relationship that they are looking to resolve. They think that if they can fix this one thing in that other person, everything would be so much better. But the funny part is, the other person is never the place to start fixing. Give me a woman with a relationship drama, be it personal or professional, and I will show you a woman who needs to develop a better relationship with herself first. That's always the place we should start. What's that saying about pointing fingers? That when you point one finger at someone, that there are three more fingers pointing right back at you. Now, I know my words may make some of you feel some kind of way. But before you come up with 100 reasons why what I'm saying is wrong, just know that I'm not excusing bad behavior. I'm simply saying that life is so much easier when we accept people for who they are and how they show up. Because when we do, we free up our mental and emotional energy to work on ourselves, to work on what we want and how we want to show up in relationships. Many of us forget that for the most part, we enter relationships willingly. And for those relationships that we enter willingly, there is a kind of relational exchange. It's like an unspoken agreement that says, you get something and I get something from this thing. Meaning that there is something that both parties are benefiting from in that relationship. Love is a benefit. Friendship is a benefit. And even when you're doing something altruistic for someone else, there is a benefit to you. You're getting to do something kind and selfless that makes you feel good about yourself. That feeling of good, that feeling good about yourself, that is the benefit. And there's something else. There is something that each party is willing to trade or exchange for these benefits they get. In essence, you are saying that I'm willing to give up this, or I'm willing to do this because I want this other thing from you. For example, relationships are a time commitment. So if you're in a relationship, you're willing to give up some of your time for it. Or there is some level of loss of independence in a relationship. So if you're in a relationship, you're actually giving up some of your own personal freedom. Or you may be signing up for your partner's extended family drama. This relational exchange, this thing is real. It exists. Otherwise, why would we be bothered to be in a relationship in the first place? There's always a cost and benefit. Now, we may not necessarily be completely aware of this cost and benefit. We may actually not be clear that we're getting or giving in a relationship, or we're not always clear what the other person is getting or giving either. That's a problem. And to make it more complicated, what you were comfortable doing 20 years ago may not be what you're trying to do today. And we tend to never upgrade our thinking. So, yeah, relationships are pretty complicated. But why is all this important? It matters because when we fight, when we argue in relationships, we often lose sight of the point of the relationship to begin with. We get lost in a sort of heightened emotion and we lose the plot. We say things that are not very strategic. We do things that undermine our original desire. So for today's episode, I want to talk about how we behave in relationships and if that behavior is working for us or if it's time to develop some new skills. When I think about things I did in my past relationships that didn't serve me, I don't think anything beats the silent treatment. This behavior was such a ready go-to of mine. It was like a communication staple. I was ever eager and willing to use it. I can't remember the time I started using it as a tool, but I do recall when I started to be aware that it was a problem. Looking back, I saw my mother using it as a tactic. I saw her mother using it too. Many women around me would use this thing in their relationships. So I guess, like many learned behaviors, I did what I saw. But as an adult, of course, I have to own it. I have to take responsibility for using it. It took me a while before I understood how terrible this behavior really was. This is why it's so important to pay attention to your emotional stuff. If you're not getting the results you want in your relationships, you got to change things up. So let me define a few things so we're on the same page. The silent treatment is when you deliberately refuse to speak or acknowledge the other person following some argument or some conflict. You can have full-blown ignoring, where you have absolutely no communication. I mean, no talking, no eye contact, no texting, no emails, nothing. This is when you walk off right after a fight and you are done. And you have nothing left to say. And you keep having nothing to say for hours or maybe days after. Or you can have limited communication, where you are not completely shut down, but it's clear that things are not business as usual. And in addition to that silence, there can be other embellishments that serve to reinforce your choice. Yes, I did do those little quotation marks. So those embellishments serve to reinforce your choice to be silent. And you know what I'm talking about. It's the nasty facial expression or the extra gestures like slamming doors or loudly setting down plates. You get the gist. You're silent, but mad, and you want everybody to know about it. Now, not everybody uses the silent treatment to express anger. Sometimes people use it as a way to avoid conflict. But this was not me. I used the silent treatment as a weapon. It felt like I was proving a point. It felt like I was fighting for some injustice in my relationship when we didn't come to an agreement. It felt like I put a stake in the ground which would not be moved until I was heard. I felt justified in using it. Except the whole thing was weird. Because silent treatment is a kind of self-induced voicelessness. So why would I choose it? The logic I used just didn't seem to make sense. If I wanted to be heard, why in the world would I want to be silent? If I wanted to be heard, why would I assume the other person is telepathic, can somehow read my mind? If I wanted to be heard, was I creating an environment to be heard? Yeah, it just didn't make sense. This was an example of losing the plot, forgetting why I was in the relationship to begin with. And frankly, this kind of behavior was just immature. And there's a word for it. It's called emotional childhood. This is when adults have not matured past childhood when it comes to managing certain emotions. They react to the emotions by acting out. And believe you me, the silent treatment is acting out. The key is to take responsibility for your emotions, to learn to create thoughts and feelings that give you your desired outcomes, to be in emotional adulthood. So here's how I cleaned up my thinking. Step 1, learn to walk away. You can feel when a conversation is not going according to plan. You may not notice it at the beginning, but at some point during that conversation, you get a sense that things are not working. The thing is, most of us just continue. We double down and keep going, as if doing more of the same thing is somehow going to give us a different result. It rarely does. So you have to learn the skill of walking away. There's a saying, when emotions are high, intelligence is low. This is so true. We just don't think right when we're angry. Nothing good ever comes out of having a conversation in anger. So learn the skill of walking away. But there's a catch. If you choose to walk away, you have the responsibility to say when you are going to re-engage with that topic. You can't just walk away and shut down the conversation by ignoring it. To walk away in full emotional adulthood, you need to explain what you were going to do and offer an opportunity to re-engage. So basically, here's what you say. You say out loud that you're going to walk away, and you give an explanation why. And you ask if you can resume the conversation at a specific time. This does two things. It says, hey, I need to take care of myself because I'm not in a good place right now to have this conversation in a productive way. And it also says, I know we're having a serious conversation. This relationship matters to me, and I'm not going to leave us hanging. Damn. Now that's good. That's acting like an adult. That's acting in full emotional adulthood. Step 2, learn to calm down. Okay, so you've walked away and put yourself on timeout. So what are you going to do while you're there? You have to figure out a way to self-soothe. You've got to figure out a way of bringing yourself from a heightened emotional state of anger to a less agitated emotional state. As an adult, that's your responsibility. Remember those pacifiers we gave babies? That was the whole point of that. Parents were helping their infants self-soothe. As an adult, now that's your job. While this is something we should have learned as children, many of us did not. So now what we have in this world is a bunch of adults walking around inappropriately discharging their emotions on others or holding it in and discharging it in other self-destructive ways. If you are struggling with having emotional outbursts, you, my friend, have got to figure out your adult version of a pacifier. You need to find a healthy way to calm down. And you can do this by trying different stuff like breathing exercises, physical activity, watching a movie, going to bed. Just find a way to discharge all that energy in you that's making you so mad. Getting to a place of calm in your body allows you to think better. Your cognitive function, meaning your ability to think, is literally better when you are calm and relaxed. Okay, step 3, learn to analyze. Now that you're relaxed and the rational thinking part of your brain is back online, you have to find out what made you so mad in the first place. And there's normally a pattern. For me, When I feel ignored or neglected, that makes me feel really vulnerable. And when I feel vulnerable, I'm almost always moving to protect myself. Anger is a sure way for me to accomplish that. When you don't analyze what makes you mad, you miss details like this. And sometimes it can be hard to look at your own thoughts. And so getting an outside perspective from a therapist or a coach can help. In my case, I would have missed the fact that I am really sensitive to feeling neglected. That sometimes I can interpret things inappropriately as neglect or uncaring behavior when they're really not. I also have this running script or a mental set of rules for what constitutes neglectful or uncaring behavior in a relationship. The thing is, this script is in my head and no one else knows about it but me. But I have this strange expectation that people I care about should be magically aware of it and also agree with it. I know, it's crazy. And you can see how this would cause me problems. So this is a good detail to know about myself. This is also a good detail for my partner to know too, because these are the things we both needed to talk about. These are the things that I can work on so I can get better at the skill of being in a relationship. Here's the thing. When we allow anger to take the center stage, when we are caught up in behaviors that anger brings, all of that is a distraction. The day I understood that, it was a total game changer. I noticed that my habit of doing the silent treatment came from anger, and that silent treatment would also trigger anger in my partner. All that anger happening in both of us was just a distraction that would stop us from having the real conversations about what was not working in our relationship. Step 4, the last step, verbalize. Learn to verbalize. So you've walked away, you've calmed down, and you've done some deep thinking about your situation. Now, you have to decide how to share all this stuff with your partner. Remember, in step 1, when you walked away, you promised to re-engage. So this is it. Most people think that admitting your shortcomings means that you have somehow lost. This is not true. In any relationship, all you can really do is take accountability for your stuff. You have to own your own emotional baggage, man. And you can't really force the next person to do the same. So share your thought process. Share what truly went down and upset you. Share why that conversation was difficult for you. Share why you think the whole conversation unraveled the way it did. Give your partner a true and detailed behind-the-scenes perspective of your personal experience. And don't be afraid about how your partner received this information either. That's not your problem. I have to say, how your partner receives and responds to this kind of information that's so vulnerable says a lot about them. And that's good information, because then you get to decide if that's something you want to be around. Remember, we're not in the business of changing other people. We're in the business of accepting people for exactly who they are. Okay, I hope this was helpful. That's it for today. Until next time, take care. Thank you for joining me on Life Lessons in Hindsight. Your time and attention mean the world to me. If you found today's episode insightful, please consider prescribing and share it with a friend who may need a little inspiration. Don't forget to visit the show notes for more resources and connect with me on Instagram at Coaching with Teresia. Remember, every single thing happens for a reason. Just find the lesson and you'll be okay. Take care.